This video is brought to you by a kind person on Reddit that happened to find me and asked me what I've done to my bike. He was specifically asking about what I did to the handlebars, but we're going to go one step further and go over the whole bike. It'll only take a minute, but there's a lot of stuff to go through. Cue the music. Made some cheat notes here, and they are really chicken scratch, so I don't expect you to read that, but we're going to go over it. I'm going to start with the crash result mod. I've only replaced two things as resulting from crashes alone, and that is the levers, because I crashed. Let's go over to this side. As you can see, this side not quite so pretty anymore. Anyway, so yeah, I low-sided twice, and the second time I broke the brake lever off, so I ordered these guys off of, don't tell anybody, but it's Amazon, and they were like 35 bucks. And you know, like most races are going to tell you not to go shorties, but I just love the shorties. I'm going to take it as personal preference and say the shorties work well for me, and my braking is actually 2 or even 1 finger. The other result as a crash is the foot pegs or rear sets, which was actually before this thing even hit the track. I had bought it, and on this side, scooch this out of the way. On this side, the shifter was actually broken back yay far. And oh man, it sucked to get your foot under. And they just like put a bolt through. If you go back and watch the build series on this bike, you'll see that. So anyway, my whole reason for replacing the stock pegs was just to replace this alone, basically. But I do not regret switching over to these Woodcraft rear sets. They are much better, especially in a crash situation, as you just see on the other side. It's kind of ground down a bit. As you can see right here, she's hit the ground a couple times, but it stands up really well. So that's it really, as far as like, I crashed the bike and it needed to be fixed. It was just really those two things. So now I'm going to move on to what I had to do for track day modifications. So for me, as far as a track day modification, I would say the one thing I wanted to do but is not necessary is the fiberglass bodywork. You don't have to have it for a track day. It was my own personal preference because I knew this bike would never see the street again anyway. If you are just going to a track day and you know you're going to ride the street again, it's not necessary. But for me, it was definitely something I wanted to do. So one that I highly recommend that you do before going onto the track is the tank grip, because if you're leaning off the edge of the bike, you're holding on with the inside of your legs. Your arms are meant to be loose and bent. I know this is the wrong side, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying here. Your arms are supposed to be bent when you're going around a corner, and you're not supposed to be holding on for dear life. Your arms are supposed to be relaxed, like relaxed, and you're holding on to your legs, so you need a good tank grip on there. So back to the original mods section, I had the rear sets in there, but this also doubles up with this one, which is my crash protection. I wouldn't recommend putting very big ones on, because if the bike does end up in the grass sliding, these can dig into the grass and send your bike tumbling. You do not want that. Other crash protection that I've done is this protector here over, I guess, like your starter gears, because that's what's inside here is my starter gears. And on the other side is your stator cover. I did that one as well. And you know, there's your other frame slider and my other rear set, which I have not scratched. Next mod that I did for track day was after, say, like 3-4 sessions, I found I was losing ground on the straightaway and nobody really wants to do that. So what's the cheapest mod that you can do to go faster on the straightaway? Well, if your straightaway is not really long and you're not maxing the bike out, this is your best option. Chain and sprockets. So your best option for getting more acceleration on the straightaway that's not going to break the bank. I think this cost me $200 Canadian. I went +2 rear sprocket, -1 front sprocket, and a new chain. And like I said, 200 bucks. Now this isn't a mod that's going to make you go faster, but this is a mod that I recommend you do. Track bike, street bike, whatever. These grips, you know, like that's your whole control over the whole bike is your hands on these grips, right? So as you can see inside here in these grooves, I safety wired these and like make sure they're flush so there's nothing grabbing. That's nice and smooth. It's just it gives a constant, like, no slip from your hand to the actual control surface, which is not the rubber part, it's down that inside. The next one we're going to touch base on is the, you know, it's not necessary, but it's the one that makes your track day so you can see your improvements, which is, boom. It is the lap timer, and this is a GPS lap timer. This catches your GPS signal, and then that's your timer up here. It gives you your lap number and times, blah, blah, blah. Again, the next one I'm going to go over is not necessary, but if you're getting serious, it is something you should seriously consider, is steel braided brake lines. Because your stock rubber ones will, especially when they get warm, they will start to expand under pressure and then you lose brake pressure. So that's why we move on to the steel ones. And then while I'm still here, I'm going to go over what's inside here, which is EBC brake pads, and they're the race ones, not recommended for the street because they are really, really, really grippy. So they do not recommend them for the streets. Sorry about the stuttering. And then if we go up a little bit higher inside here, which it just looks normal, but it is actually really super expensive Motul 660 brake fluid, which can stand really high temperatures and not boil over. Okay, so I have two more items under the track day mods. First one being coolant. That's a must. Any track you go to, they're going to tell you can't have antifreeze in there. It has to be straight up water. I highly recommend distilled water because, like, garden hose water has minerals and stuff in there that will build up on your internal components inside your engine. You do not want that. What I also added, they allow, so I did add, is something called water wetter, and it helps lubricate your impeller and stuff in your water pump, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I bought that at Canadian Tire and it was like, I want to say like $10 for a little jug, and it lasted me, I want to say like probably like 3 coolant changes. So it's well worth the money. And the second item on not necessary for a track day, but inside, underneath your gas tank, pretty much everybody has it done already, but K&N air filter. We went over the mods I did because of crashing. We went over the mods to go track day. Now we're going to go over the mods I did to go legit racing. So first I want to start with the necessities you have to do to race your bike. Number one, safety wire. Safety wire because it has fluid behind it. You need a shark fin. This is safety wired so your nut can't back out. Triple tree, safety wired so it can't back out. Safety wired so it can't back out. Banjo bolts, safety wired here, here. My bolts that hold the caliper on, safety wired. I hope the light can show you guys, but inside here, my rad hoses are safety wired. This cap is safety wired. Any hose with a fluid behind it has to be safety wired. Even my GoPros have to be safety wired to the bike. Now this little guy here is also a must for racing. It's a shark fin. So like if your chain breaks and happens to swing out, it's not going to take your leg off. It's just going to hit this and then just go on in behind you. And over here, this is also a must for racing. Is your brake guard, so nobody else can get an elbow in on it or anything, or other scenarios. That's a must. Got to have that. They won't let you race without it. The last item on the must list after everything else that I've done that you have to have for racing is the numbers. Pretty sure everything else that I have left on my list is stuff that I've put on the bike to go racing that really just make it go faster. Number one, let's start with inside here. Inside here you can see my Anatoly quick shifter. The brains of the operation are under the seat. After the quick shifter, next thing you don't have to have, you can run DOT tires, but you know, the slicks definitely make you faster when you're good enough to use them. If you're not good enough to use them, stick with DOT. So if you'll notice, my start button is over on the left. Well, that's kind of odd, isn't it? Kill switch on the left. That's not right. It's supposed to be over here. Why isn't it over here? Well, because my Motion Pro throttle tube didn't have enough clearance underneath here, so I had to move it over to the other side. But this Motion Pro gives me like quarter turn, like 90 degrees, and I'm at full throttle. While we're on the handlebars, something you may not notice by looking is I moved these out as much as I could, but I started getting interference inside here, so that's as far as I could go. But the more you can move these out to like almost 90 degrees, the better, because you want that extra leverage. Now we're getting into the pricey options. Full exhaust system. This one's made by N4. I sought out this exhaust system. I really wanted it. I love the sound of it. And then if you move, hopefully you can see it, but inside here you can see I wrapped it. And the reason for that is I'm trying to keep the heat inside the pipes and blow it out the exhaust, because I was coming off the track and the bike was running like mid 90, I guess that's Celsius. Sorry, I'm not going to translate it for you. But the bike was running on the hot side for sure. And I really wanted to keep the heat inside the pipes, not blowing off the pipes onto the engine. So I wrapped it and it actually worked. It kept, now I'm running, I think like mid 80s, so I like dropped like a good 10 degrees Celsius just by doing that alone. Inside the tail is something you need to go with the full exhaust system, which is the Power Commander 5. I put that in, another pricey item, but you have to do it to match what's going on with your exhaust. You need to match the fuel air intake into the engine to match what's going out of the engine. Also underneath the seat, which you can't see, is a lithium battery. Drops weight, basically, is all you're doing. So we're down to the last item. The last item, which is going to cost you probably more than the bike itself is worth. It's the full Öhlins treatment. Steering damper, and this is the one, yes, that came stock with the bike, but I took it off, got it sent away, and I got it rebuilt, so it actually does something, because the stock one doesn't do crap. So you got to get it rebuilt. So next on the Öhlins treatment is my front suspension, and while this may look familiar, yes, it is the show of BPF, front fork tube outside, but if you go up here, that doesn't look like the show of BPF. It has been replaced with the Öhlins internals. And hope you got your wallet ready. And then down here we got the TTX rear shock. Again, get your wallet out. This is not going to be cheap. Well, that's what I've done to my race bike thus far, and you know, like, that's barely scratching the surface of stuff you can do to these things to make them go faster. I've got a lot of stuff out of the way, but you know, you can keep going. It depends on how deep your wallet is. Well, my friends, that's it for this one. Remember my 3 rules. Ride safe, have fun, keep the shiny side up. Hopefully we see you out there on the street. If not, on the track. Or, you know, there's always social media. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have fun. Bye.